Good afternoon. This is Elaine Grohman on Earth Wisdom Circles on Empower Radio. And today I have the great pleasure of speaking with a dear friend, Nancy Judge, who is, gosh, Nancy, I think we've known each other certainly well over 20 years now. It's hard to believe. But Nancy is the director of the Healing Touch Center in Farmington Hills. And I thought it would be very interesting today to speak about what is happening with the challenges that we're facing in our world today with the pandemic and with so much civil discord that is not always the kindest. And how do we get ourselves balanced, and how do we do work, energy work, with individuals that maybe are reticent to travel, to have something done, or for whatever reason, if they have COVID, they obviously cannot travel. But anyways, welcome to the show, Nancy.
Thank you.
It's so good to have you. So today, as I was talking with Nancy yesterday, we were going to talk about, how has it evolved for you, Nancy, and for the community that you work with at the Healing Touch Center, and how are healers, first of all, coping, and how are the clients dealing with all of this first of all?
That's a big question.
I know.
There's a lot to cover there.
I know.
Well, first and foremost, I think it's more within this environment, it's more the practitioner and what we need to do for them so that they're in a good place to do the work. And we'll speak to that issue first, and then we can go back to all the changes.
Absolutely.
But early on, when we decided to close, because we did close back in March, and we were closed ever since and just opened up again. Our practitioners needed to connect and touch with each other, even though we couldn't be in person. So a lot of us do distant healing, which we can talk about a little bit later, so that we were still getting our self-care. But more than that, it was connecting as a community. So every Wednesday and Saturday is when we used to have our sessions at the center. We decided every Wednesday we were going to do a group meditation. And in doing the group meditation, even the practitioners who weren't able to come on a regular basis before started connecting. So our community even became greater as far as those who were really participating. So we set a time. Everybody knew what our meditation was, and somebody had actually recorded it, so we shared it with some, so they could actually play it if they wanted to hear words instead of just tapping into the energy. Mm-hmm. But the feedback that we got from everybody when we did this every Wednesday was how powerful it was. When you have a group of people, and this is what energy work is all about, there's no time and space. It is quantum. It's like energy is everywhere. We are all connected. So it was bringing home to a lot of the practitioners who hadn't experienced that before, what it is that they were really working with. So it has also deepened their work. But it did bring us together as a community. And within that energy, we still set very loving, calm energy throughout this whole area, because we are scattered all over. We're scattered all over Michigan, actually, and then we have people in other states.
Nancy, what I'd like to, excuse me for interrupting, but I think before we go too much further, let's define what energy healing is first. Because I think that, if we're just speaking about meditation, that doesn't really help people understand what is this unique thing called energy. And I'd like to make one, not correction, but perhaps a different way of thinking about something, is there is time and space. Time and space is all there is. So it's not that it is a no thing, it is the thing. And they're one.
Oh.
So it is.
There's so many different concepts in how you see things, yes.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So if you would define what healing touch is in relation to what you're doing, please, first.
One of the basic concepts of healing touch is that the healer isn't the one who's doing the healing, but that we're creating the environment. The client comes to us, they have something they want to work with, they've set their intention. And so when we are doing the treatment, We are working what their intention is. It's not what we want for them. What is the client working on, and what is it that they want to achieve? So it really is them healing themselves, but we're manipulating the energy in and around and through their body to help them achieve that goal.
Well, let me ask you then,
Okay.
because I get this question all the time as a healer, and I have a different thought about intention. Because, for instance, if I am working with somebody that is comatose, they may not have a conscious intention.
True.
So, energy is energy is energy. So the way I explain it is, if you were to plug a plug into an outlet, you're not asking that electricity if it will move. It moves. You're not asking that electricity to do anything other than run whatever it is connected to at its most efficient. So I think that it kind of can cause a little bit of confusion if there's an intention, because let's say somebody who's working on somebody does not have good thought processes, and maybe they're working on somebody they don't really care for. Well, then that could be misconstrued, in my opinion. So,
and there's two sides to it. It's the skill of the healer, the depth of the knowledge that they know, so that they know how to move the energy, and whatever they engage, how to deal with what they engage and help that.
yes.
But the value of it, and the real benefit of it, is really from the healee side or the client side. How are they going to take that energy, and how are they going to use it to its optimum? They may take it and waste it, or they may take it and they may use it so that they really do heal, or anything in between. And so when we have little workshops on what I call Energy 101, we are explaining all of this so people understand how are they engaging the energy. Because people don't understand, when they go through the day, everything they do is energetic. All the interactions with people, it's all energetic, and they don't understand how much they're reading through the energy. So those are the things that we point out to make them more aware. When they're more aware, then they use it better. So all of it is the depth of the knowledge and how you use all of it.
Well, that's interesting, because we have so much to learn as human beings, and even though we are very skilled, we really know very little about how energy actually affects the body. But we do know with 100% efficiency, the energy knows what to do when it's in the body. So it's not that we are trying to define energy so much as, I often like to say, well, my job is to be a jumper cable. The energy itself is coming from the living earth. And the living earth is a part of the cosmos. So this is one living ecosystem of which we are a part. If that were not the case, we wouldn't even exist here on this planet, as in this body. So how do we help to give the body what it needs in order for its intelligence to be able to do what it knows how to do innately? So I think that that's really important when we're working with people, is to help them understand that we have what's called a body mind. And our body mind is enormously intelligent. Thank goodness it doesn't need our conscious attention, because we would forget, oh, beat my heart, oh, rest, make sure you're making peptides, whatever it is. We don't need to have that directive from ourselves. So I think that it's really important, as you said, for the practitioners to get together, to have some sense of community, first of all, right in this time. That's really important. Again, I want to go back to so keeping in mind that the greater listening audience might not know what energy healing is. So what is it that a practitioner does, even when they're just meditating? And I don't say that lightly, when they are meditating. What is happening in their body when they're meditating, do you think?
It's like getting an energy treatment yourself, because what you're doing is you're grounding and centering.
That's what I'm trying to get to. What is grounding and centering?
I knew that was, I knew you were getting to talk about grounding.
Right, right.
In order to do a treatment, when we do our group centering at our center, the basic thing is really grounding. You can't do this work if you're not connected and aware. And like you said, you feel like you plug in. And I can remember years ago, you said that you feel like it's almost like your feet are plugging into the earth, and that's how you run the energy. And that's a good visualization for it. So it's really connecting to the earth and to the heavens or the ethers, so that you're running the energy, the flow of energy. And as you run that, then it is engaging all the energetic systems in your body, which then eventually field the physical. And that is how we pass it on to the client. When we do our Energy 101 classes, we play with energy. We get them feeling the energy. And I know you do when you've, instructed in energy work too. It's letting people know it really is there. It's palpable. You can feel it. It's subtle, but it is there. And once they realize it's there, it's like it opens a whole new world to them. They become much more aware of what's going on around them and how they interact with everybody.
And I think what is so important now, Nancy, today in our world, there's so much dissension, there's so much tension that people become so enamored with their emotions that they then almost neglect their body and they neglect what they feel. And what they're so accustomed to then feeling is what is really revved up. As you said, energy is very subtle. And I think that as healers and as educators, etc., it's really important for us to help people understand that first and foremost, our bodies are sensory perceptors. We perceive the world in multiple ways. That is often very subtle, but very profound. And the more we can feel this intimate connection with the living world and with one another, then we are more inclusive. We're naturally more inclusive. And I think that what a healer is able to do is to have a certain level of energy within them that they're naturally calm. And a calm body is a body that holds a high frequency, because there's no deficiency within that person's body. And then there's an easier way for energy to move and be, as it always is, being transmitted from one person to another, from one living being to another, from the living world to another. And then we can be more consciously aware of it. Would you agree with that?
I do. That's the essential need for the grounding and centering of a practitioner or a healer before they ever lay hands on anybody.
Right.
If they don't have that in place, then you're not going to get it's not going to be as beneficial as it could be. That's where the honing of the skills of the practitioner or the healer comes in.
Right.
The more you practice, the more you tap in and really understand how energy flows, the better you can be to transmit that energy and the quality of that energy.
Right. And helping people understand, which is so important of what you're helping people to do, Nancy, at the Healing Touch Center with these meditations. I'm assuming, and I think I'm correct, that the person within themselves has a sensibility about what is happening in the world. And I always tell people, you can't jump a dead car battery with a dead car battery. If there's not enough movement, or if there's not enough flow, there will be no movement. You have to always have something that's a higher resonance to cause it, by the laws of physics, to begin to normalize to the next highest level, not to the lowest common denominator. Yes. So I really applaud you for making sure that there is this meditation going on, because there's so much more that we need to do, and we're really just in the infancy stages, truly, in in what we understand about our connectivity to everything that exists and how we can help to affect a change.
That's where I think this meditation has been very valuable to a lot of the members who volunteer at our center, because before, I don't think some of them had the deep understanding. And like I said before, the feedback that I'm getting is they can't believe what they're feeling through this. This is also where, after we do our own grounding and centering meditation, then we go into our prayers or sending out energy for those of special needs. And we all have, like maybe people who are in skilled care facilities or the frontline medical workers. We all have an issue that week that we really want to send our intentions to. So there's a lot of loving, healing energy going out. And if you could see it, we all talk about how we shine our light. And when we're in the meditation, you almost see like every light is connected to another one. And we become this beautiful light, this blanket of light and love that surrounds the area, which also helps to calm and center and ground everybody within it to keep it more, keep it in a better place.
So Nancy, I want to ask you a question about the distance healing, because I know that I certainly am doing a lot of it with my clients all over. And can you tell the listening audience what you see distance healing being and how that is helping individuals, please?
So some of our clients understand it, some of our clients don't understand it, some of the clients are acceptable to it, and some of the clients still prefer in person. So when we were closed, those that were open to it, we did provide the distant healing. And the way we actually do it is there's usually we set a time, set an appointment just like any other time, have a telephone conversation so that we can see where they are, get the update, and then also find out what is it you'd like to work on today. And then we usually hang up. Then we go into the treatment. I give them 5 minutes to go get settled in the easy chair or lay down on their bed. And I actually do the treatment at my table as if they were on my table. And I know it's hard for people to believe, but when you work with energy work, because of the intention, when I go to do assessment or do any of the techniques, it's like their body is right underneath my hands. I can feel everything. I can sense everything.
Yes.
So I do the treatment as if the body was there. There's usually feedback, whether it's a telephone call or whether it's a text, so that we're all on board as far as what's happening. Do they have any questions? So that they're in a good place. The energy is subtle, but the more those that weren't used to remotes are getting remotes, some of the feedback as far as, what were you doing such and such, I felt this or something, this happened. So they are aware that there is still energy moving, even though we're not in the same room.
Yeah,
there is just that connection.
Yeah, I do it slightly differently because I stay on the phone with the individual the entire time. Because as you know, my habit is to speak with people as I'm working with them, because there's an immediacy of what are you feeling, so that it's sometimes things are so subtle, and in particular with people that are not accustomed to having healing, they might dismiss what they're feeling, or they don't know how to articulate it. And so often what I have discovered is when I ask someone what do they feel, they tell me what they think. And I say, no, what do you feel? What is the physiological sensation? And so I think that part of the opportunity we have as healers is teach individuals how to pay attention to their own body. What are the subtleties that can at times be life-saving? But we have been taught, especially by culture, by religion, by our ethnicities, by our gender, to be quiet, not to complain, not to be aware. So it is really essential that we become aware of what is the subtleties, because the subtlety has so much more information than the loud boom.
Mm-hmm.
It carries a lot more information. So, and I know just for the listening audience to know that the Healing Touch Center has had several locations, and because, as you had mentioned, it closed because of COVID, but also because of the fact that the physical place was being sold. So now you're in a new location, still in Farmington Hills,
Yes.
and where is that place?
It's at the intersection of 12 Mile and Farmington Road. The address is 27600 Farmington Road. And we're in Suite 100. So when you walk in the front door, we're right on your right. We're right there.
Oh,
We're very
wonderful.
accessible.
Now, how would people get in touch with you, Nancy?
Our telephone number has not changed. It's the voicemail only. It's 248 788 5808.
Okay,
And they can
is
just
there a
leave a
website?
message. And yes, it's healingtouchcenter.info.
Okay, great. So I think what is so beautiful, and you certainly were very instrumental in my education in the healing touch. I had been doing healing work for quite a while before that, learning polarity therapy, but then needed to learn healing touch so that I could have you as my friend, which was a great bonus. But I think that, at that time, 20 years ago, there was so much misunderstanding, especially in the allopathic model of medicine's world. What is this complementary and alternative medicine, as they used to call it? And now they call it integrative medicine because there was a language barrier. There was a rhetoric barrier of individuals who thought that complementary and alternative meant other than them, rather than a part of their team. So how have you seen that healing touch has been more interactive with the healing community or the medical community?
It is more accepted. I think more so by the nursing than maybe by the doctors, although some doctors have been curious about it. I recently went through hip replacement surgery. And so and because it was during COVID, most of my treatments were remote.
Mm-hmm.
But I am in my 70s, and I got to tell you, it was a piece of cake. It was very easy to get through because I was receiving a lot of energy work through the whole thing. And as
Right.
far as, not taking as many meds. So at the hospital, in talking to the nurses, they were very, very open to it. And if they hadn't learned anything about it, I mean, if they hadn't taken any courses, they were very curious. But a lot of them were aware of energy work and they knew that there was a benefit to it. So
Yes.
years ago when I got into this, 25 or so years ago when I got into this, that wasn't the case. So now it's like you can talk about it and people actually know what you're talking about. Back then, not so much. So it's a slow go, but it is much more open.
Yes, and nursing, I agree with you. Nurses are the ones that, inherently, 30, 40 years ago, they were the ones who had time to sit at the bedside. They gave actually bedside massages. They spent time with the person. They were able to physically touch someone. And as the allopathic model became much more mechanical and much more technical, the unfortunately the time of the nurses was taken away from the bedside care, and that was it has been extremely frustrating to them. And I'm glad that it is always such an important part, because the nurses are the ones that are spending the more dramatic amount of time with the clients, and inherently being caregivers themselves.
And when you see
Go ahead,
some
please.
of the stories about COVID and how the medical staff, when someone is passing, how they all gather, and it's a very sacred moment, you actually see how they feel about things. They are not mechanical when it comes to this. So
No.
not that I'm pleased with COVID, but I think COVID's making us much more mindful and much more empathic and much more sympathetic and compassionate.
Yes.
So I think we're going to be better coming out of this because of what it's making us pay attention to.
Yes, because as I said earlier, what it's allowing us to do, Nancy, as you just stated, is to be much more aware of our own perceptions of what is really important. because, and I say this all the time, and I've said it to 150 doctors at one time, none of us are getting out of this life alive.
Mm-mm.
So how are we going to live? Most of us are more afraid to live than we are afraid to die. So we believe that there is that death is going to happen to somebody else. And the reality is it's going to happen to every one of us. So I want to thank you for all that you are doing to so, beautifully share the love that you are, and teaching others that it's within them too, and to really come together as a community leader, because you most certainly are. I want to thank you for that.
It's been a joy. Thank you.
So again, could you just give the number and the website, please, for the Healing Touch Center in Farmington Hills?
Our telephone number is 248-788-5808, and the website is healingtouchcenter.info.
Great.
And we're located at 27600 Farmington Road. It's a lovely new place.
Oh, great. I'm so glad, Nancy, and I'm sure that it's going to continue to expand and change the lives of people all over the world, as it has. Thank you for being who you are, my friend.
Thank you for inviting me.
Okay, this is Elaine Grohman on Earth Wisdom Circles and Empower Radio. Remember, your life is very precious. Be as grounded as you can, be as loving as you can, and be as helpful as you can. Thank you.